Everybody's girl. What's the point in being everybody's girl? Maybe you think that way, there's no chance getting hurt. Living for no one costs me way more than it's worth.
Welcome to Window Dressing's Twin Peaks mini-season, The Women of the Woods. I'm Madeline Jane Auble. I started my Twin Peaks series with Norma Jennings, played by Peggy Lipton, and I'm ending with Shelly Johnson, played by Madchen Amick. Their connection is what creates the coziness at the Double R Diner. Norma is the diner owner and operator, and Shelly is her employee. But it is more than that. Norma is like her mother and best friend. Shelly is the only teen in Twin Peaks who doesn't seem to have any family, besides her abusive husband. Norma acts as her entire support system, and to be honest, it is enough. Norma works hard to create a safe place for Shelly. Knowing the strain between Norma and her own mother, it makes sense to me that she would have an open-door policy for Shelly. As always, if you need a Twin Peaks refresher, go back and listen to the first episode in the series. Shelly Johnson's beauty is beyond compare. Although I am about to make an exception by making an incredibly apt comparison to Erin Everly. Erin Everly is the daughter of Dawn Everly of the Everly Brothers. She is Axl Rose's ex-wife and curly-haired icon of the late 1980s and early 1990s. Like Shelly, who was abused by her long-haul trucker husband, Leo Johnson, Erin also suffered abuse, but at the hands of Axl Rose, namely having a bondage-esque sex tape made into a music video without her consent. That video was for the song It's So Easy off the 1987 album Appetite for Destruction. I can't think of a bigger fuck you to a woman you love than exploiting private intimacy to sell a song about how everyone will do whatever you want. That being said, I still love Guns N' Roses. Leo Johnson beats his wife with a bar of soap and a sock with the aid of a good swinging arm. He and Shelly live in a trailer-esque home that is mid-renovation on a lonely road in Twin Peaks with the washer and dryer outside, which, to be honest, makes sense in Southern California or other desert climates, but not so much for Washington State. In addition to her husband, Shelly is also having an affair with local teen and hot-headed heartthrob Bobby Briggs. Bobby has the untapped energy of a child with the wild loneliness of a man triple his age. Unlike her husband's multiple affairs, including with Laura and Ronette, one murdered and the other hospitalized, Shelly loves Bobby. She got herself stuck early on with Leo. She dropped out of high school and married, in her words, this hot guy with his hot car. She realized quickly that all he wanted was a maid he didn't have to pay. The unpaid emotional and physical labor women are expected to do in service of men is sort of endless, even if your husband isn't an abusive monster. But it must be especially rough if he is also fucking your former classmate while you do his laundry. This reality is one of the strongest ties between Norma and Shelly. Norma, too, has suffered innumerable humiliations at the hands of her incarcerated husband, Hank. She is having an affair with her high school sweetheart, Ed. These two smart women living in a world where they are property of monsters, but still seeking real love, are special because they didn't break. Or at least they haven't yet. We are introduced to Shelly in a scene where Bobby casually shows up at the Double R and offers her a ride home after her shift. Norma seems to be wise to the affair, but plays along happily to create safety for Shelly. Once inside Bobby's car, they make out ravenously, with the extra bit of heat that mutual affairs in a small town lend to teenage love. Shelly's curly auburn red hair with delicate gold flecks is up in a slightly haphazard workaday ponytail, and she wears a thick flannel over her haint blue diner uniform. Haint is a Creole word for haunt. The color was thought to ward off ghosts and prevent them from entering a property. You often see it painted on porch ceilings and window frames in the South. The color was created with buttermilk, lime, and indigo pigment. The concept that ghosts can't cross water is one that many different cultures share. For example, in the American Southwest, turquoise takes the place of haint blue, but the basic concept is the same. I didn't think to describe the color as such in Norma's episode, but the more I think about who and how the female inhabitants are touched by the evil in the town of Twin Peaks, the clearer it becomes to me that the two women working inside the Double R are safe while they are there. The metaphor of safe haven from evil extends past the color of the uniforms to the actual place that Norma has created for herself and Shelly. A single speeding cop car passes Bobby and Shelly on their way to her house. It's for Laura, but it acts as a warning to the two lovers, who are recklessly anticipatory of each other's touch. When they near the trailer on the side of the one-horse road running through town, Leo's truck becomes visible. Leo was supposed to be in Butte, Montana. Butte is far. Too far for him to be back this soon. One of the reasons we know how far it is that it's where David Lynch and Laura's brunette twin cousin Madeline Ferguson are from. Montana, not Butte. Leo likely lied about where he was to fuck with his young wife. Or as we later find out, he lied to literally fuck Laura. When Bobby sees Leo's big rig truck, he stops the car dead in its tracks and quickly puts the vehicle in reverse. Shelly hops out of the car to face the potential brutality of her husband alone. My guess is she needs Bobby to do better, but in the throes of adolescence, he doesn't know how. Later, while watching the news coverage of Laura's murder, Leo becomes fixated on the two different kind of cigarette butts in the ashtray that have accumulated while he was away. He forces Shelly to turn off the TV and then reprimands her in such a humiliating fashion, it becomes crystal clear that he was with Laura the night she died. He, in fact, tied her up and fucked her just hours before her death. That kind of simmering lie and disgusting betrayal fuels his nitpicky humiliations of his wife. Now, to be clear, there are two different cigarette butts in the ashtray because Bobby and Shelly smoke different brands, and he was most definitely there with Shelly. However, as we have recently attempted to grapple with societally, Shelly is not, in fact, Leo's property just because she is his wife. I would also point out that her secret lover did not need to be forcibly restrained during sex as Laura was, nor was he murdered. Although Bobby is running drugs for Leo to the high school at Laura's behest, that is a whole other kettle of fish, or as Pete would say, there's a fish in the percolator. Shelly finds proof that Leo is hiding something and perhaps is involved with Laura's murder. She runs across a bloodied blue denim shirt while doing her husband's laundry. She hides the shirt. When she comes home from work with pie in tow, he says, "Where's my shirt? My favorite blue shirt. It's the second one you've lost this year. I'm going to have to teach you a lesson about taking care of my property. That means making sure things aren't lost or damaged." He pauses before saying, "This is going to hurt you." He turns on the radio to a song that is reminiscent of a coastal motorcycle bar's jukebox selection. He swings his sock soap as Shelly collapses in the corner of the mid-renovation kitchen. She attempts to protect her face. Unfortunately, she fails and ends up with some nasty cuts and bruises that force her to hide out in her home, further generating shame and fear. Bobby sees the proof of Leo's handiwork when he shows up at Shelly's door one day to find her worse for wear in a robe and with injuries to her face. Shelly says, "Bobby, if he finds out about you, he'll kill you. He'll kill us both." Bobby doesn't leave. He says he will kill Leo if he hurts her again. He holds her hurt face in his hands as he makes this empty promise. This rare show of bravery adds heat to their makeout session, which has an added layer of intimacy due to Shelly's vulnerability, as evidenced by the cuts and bruises on her face. Shelly deserves a prince just as much as Audrey does. But like Norma, Shelly is destined to do it for herself. The concept of ladies doing it for themselves fuels her acquisition of a pearl-handled pistol. She borderline masturbates with it when Bobby comes over for another pre-homeroom rendezvous. The gun is to protect against Leo, but the red-hot heat of a gun in her hands, backed by the strength of the desire between Bobby and her, makes for another powerfully hot makeout scene. Shelly lets it slip, or rather openly admits to Bobby, that Leo is with Jacques Renault. Bobby, who has been running drugs for Leo to the high school at Laura's behest, tells Shelly that Leo was running drugs and may have had some connection to Laura, conveniently leaving himself out of the story. Shelly is alarmed and pulls out the bloody blue shirt that she found, hid, and then took a beating for. She gives it to Bobby. He says, "This could be the answer to all our prayers." She says, "What do you mean?" He responds with a classic, "You don't need to know." These exact words are something that Leo has said to Shelly. The giant red flag about men who feign authority by not explaining themselves is not just a condescending indicator of chauvinism, but a subtle manipulation in itself. We all want to trust the person that we're with. We all want to believe that our partner has our best interests at heart. We all want to trust, period. Unfortunately, as a woman, anytime a man tells you not to look, it's fine, you don't need to know all the details, and so on, we can pretty much rely on the fact that he has stacks of skulls behind that little locked room. For those of you who are lost, this is a Bluebeard reference. The fairy tale is about the monster who keeps the corpses of his ex-wives in a little locked room in his house. He forbid his wife from looking in that room. But she did look. And while the story has been bastardized through the years to teach that curiosity killed the cat, the original lesson is in line with the ending of that saying. Satisfaction brought it back. Always look. Sometime in between the two gun incidents, Shelly comes into work in a huff, visibly ruffled. She says to Norma, "I got one man too many and I'm married to him. Sound familiar?" Norma says, "Maybe you should have a little talk with Leo." Shelly says, "Leo doesn't talk, he hits." She goes on to describe how she fell for Leo fast, hot guy with a hot car, and so on. But as soon as they married, meaning as soon as he had legal control, he treated her as a maid, not a wife. Norma doesn't want Shelly to endure what she has with Hank, but she is gentle enough to never judge or push Shelly. Often, women are blamed for staying with their abusers by other women who don't understand or take the time to see the big picture of the victim's well-being. The odds that Shelly could leave Leo without serious threats to her safety are low at best. Norma understands that, and most adult women who have eyes understand too. But Shelly is just learning. So Norma keeps it light in her touch and warm in her heart. Norma says to Shelly, "Look at us, 2 men apiece, and we don't know what to do with any of the 4 of them." Rather than abandon Shelly with 2 men who aren't good enough for her, she decides to make Shelly feel beautiful through her own eyes and not that of a man's. She suggests a day of beauty, her treat. They hit the beauty parlor and come back with bouffants that bring them closer to religious ecstasy. Or as Dolly Parton preached, the higher the hair, the closer to God. The next time we see Shelly's pearl-handled pistol, she is cooking Bobby breakfast while Leo is away long-haul trucking. He says he loves her cooking. She says Leo hates it. Bobby says, "Leo missed the boat with you, baby. The biggest mistake of your life was dropping out of the 11th grade and marrying that road hog." Shelly playfully asks what he would do if Leo walked in right now. Bobby goes on an ego-fueled oratory about how he would make Leo apologize to Shelly. This facade of a fantasy that Bobby could or would protect her gives way to another playing house-fueled makeout session. The role of hero quickly fades to coward when they hear a door close, and Bobby jumps up in fear. It was just Andy, the deputy, coming to talk to Leo. But the spell is broken. After Shelly plants some tidbits about Leo's connection to Jacques and Laura's murder, Andy leaves. Bobby reemerges from his hiding place and recasts his spell until yet another noise reveals Bobby as a coward and Shelly as a working girl with one too many men on her hands. Shelly finally teaches Leo a lesson, aided by her pearl-handled pistol and the score of riveting frogs outside her door, which I am really into right now ever since I had a dream that I saved a frog. Afterwards, he sat on my cheek, and it was the most comforting sensation I have ever experienced. Leo comes home and demands that Shelly get him a beer after being beat up by Norma's ex-con husband, Hank. When she tries to tend to her husband's wounds, he screams at her and pushes her to the ground in the same spot he ritualistically beat her with soap in a sock. She pulls out the pistol from her robe pocket, points it at him, and says, "You're not going to hurt me again. Don't touch me. Don't come near me, Leo." He says, and this is important, "You stupid little slut. You haven't got the guts." She shoots him. It turns out, sluts with guns have guts. Leo moans like an animal and stumbles out of the house. His injury is superficial, but Shelly doesn't realize that in her state of fear. It's worth noting that Leo's reaction to a flesh wound from a gun that his wife immediately drops is that of a yellow-bellied coward. Leo hides outside in the woods and watches his young wife's activities. He sees Bobby come, and he gets his gun ready, only to be torn away by the police radio scanner. It's that damn bird that's in police custody and can place Leo with Laura the night of her murder. The bird can talk. So rather than shoot Bobby, he leaves to shoot Waldo. That's the bird. Inside, Shelly, or rather Madchen, is giving the performance of a lifetime. She is sobbing with the kind of sheer panic and pain that one would if they had just shot but not killed their abusive husband. She says through real tears, "I shot him, Bobby. What am I going to do? Where am I going to hide?" Bobby's response is to promise that he will take care of her from now on. Pretty men telling all those pretty lies fuels the romantic and desperate side of her, and she chooses to believe it. Her false sense of security quickly goes up in smoke when Leo, hired to burn down the mill by Benjamin Horne, decides to burn his wife at the stake in the same blaze. He ties her up at the mill and leaves her there to die. He says, "You broke my heart," on his way out of the room. A classic "you made me do it" kind of response. There are different versions of this. Less obvious ones like, "You created the circumstances under which I had no other choice." Or one of my favorites, "I asked if you wanted to do something, and when you said no, I decided to publicly humiliate you on every day that matters to you from here on out." Sorry, that last bit was personal. While Shelly is awaiting her death, Leo is shot. Again. Not by Bobby, who promised to protect her, although he did witness the crime, but by Norma's husband, Hank. This angelic act has nothing to do with Norma practically, but spiritually it feels like an extension of the safety Norma has worked hard to build for herself and Shelly. That spirit is picked up and passed on by Catherine, another woman who has had to do it for herself, regardless of her marriage to Pete and her affair with Benjamin Horne. It turns out Ben is the one who called her to the mill while it was burning to lure his lover to her death. This holy trinity of women, Norma, Shelly, and Catherine, stands strong against the evil in the hearts of men even more than Agent Dale Cooper does. I didn't do a Catherine episode, but maybe I should have, because she is quite a woman. When Shelly is attempting to scream for help through her gag and Catherine comes into frame, she says to Shelly, "I can't understand a word you're saying. You have a thing in your mouth." The forceful practicality of her words and husky gravel of her voice spell divinity to me. It doesn't hurt that this scene is played over music that is a mix between 90210 and Die Hard. The combination makes me swoon. That is the sparkle of David Lynch. Everyone called him the king of weird, but the reality is he brought fairy tales via the evening soap opera to cool kids. The thing that is beautiful about Twin Peaks is that women's suffering is made meaningful through the recognition of it as mundane. Mundane meaning commonplace, not unimportant or less painful, part of the furniture, so to speak. Suffering that is inherent to womanhood itself, or rather the experience of being a woman in culture. The sugar coating is replaced with a glaze of glory worthy of a sheriff's office donut. The hot black coffee is just a bonus. Bobby comes to visit Shelly in the local hospital, where she is recovering from smoke inhalation. She is lying silent and still. He slips a hand-picked bouquet of flowers to her, and he calls her Sleeping Beauty. This reference to the princess who has fallen ill under a curse that can only be broken by her one and true love is wildly misplaced at this point. It feels a lot like a slap in the face as opposed to a spell-breaking kiss, given that she nearly died at the hands of her husband after Bobby promised to protect her. But while my patience has worn thin with him, hers is still holding firm. It's on this hospital rendezvous that the couple proclaims their love for each other. It's Norma's visit to Shelly that I find to represent a much sweeter and truer kind of love. Norma is wearing jeans and an odd striped shirt paired with orange-red lipstick. She looks like a mystical being who also has to deal with the practicalities of life, which is Norma to a T. She promises to come back with soup, and Shelly, who is in her hospital gown and a bare face, reminds her that she has a sweet tooth. The thing about Shelly's face, it is so defined in features that the pencil of an eyeliner is hardly needed. Her eyebrows alone frame her face in a way that is unique to her, only achieved by Erin Everly and her ilk. Norma says, I've got a chocolate peanut butter pie. Shelly responds, Norma, I'm serious. Bring the whole pie. Norma says she will bring her 2 pies. The women giggle, and an intimacy passes between them that is the stuff of sleepovers and scary movies. It is difficult to articulate the warmth and safety inherent in their friendship. Norma says, Feel better, sweetie. And you know that when Shelly is ready, Norma will be there to help her rebuild her life without Leo and without Bobby. Women doing it for themselves, not for the plot. What comes next for Shelly is a deeper dive into the inefficacy of Bobby and the betrayal of trusting the wrong men. Thankfully, Leo is a vegetable after the second gunshot. He is on life support, and the question of whether or not he can be tried for his crimes eventually gets answered in court. He is released into the care of his wife, who tells no one about what he did to her because Bobby convinces her that the insurance money will be enough to support them. It isn't. Which becomes painfully clear in a scene where Bobby and Shelly meet the insurance adjuster to receive their first check. Shelly is wearing one of my favorite outfits of hers in this scene. She wears a white sheer lace blouse with a forest green silk camisole underneath and a plaid riding jacket over it. The jacket looks like a JCPenney's catalog version of a Ralph Lauren look. It's great. Shelly's colors are brown and dark green. Her earthy physicality and kinky hair channel a different kind of energy in that white lace top. She brings a Phyllis Dietrichson-coded air to her meeting with the insurance agent, a la Double Indemnity. This bitch is bad in angelic white. The last scene about Shelly I'm going to talk about happens long before the series ends, and a couple of episodes before Bobby starts to fall for Audrey, which, as I have noted in every episode up to this point, ends the show for me. Based on the premise that love is God in Twin Peaks, even when it's imperfect, and for as fucked as Bobby is, no one can convince me he would give his heart away to anyone but Shelly, or that Bobby would turn Audrey's head. Shelly goes into the Double R to talk to Norma about having to quit her job so she can care for her fucking husband full-time. She is crying. The sunshiny light of the buttercup yellow diner reflects the warmth in Norma's heart and acts as a salve for Shelly's. Shelly says, I love you. I love working here. I don't want to let you down. Norma says, You're not going to let me down. She promises that Shelly can return whenever she is ready, guaranteeing that her life won't fall to pieces, that she will get through this, and that Norma will be there to help her whenever she asks for it. This simple but endlessly gracious act of kindness on Norma's part is a gift, which Shelly receives in this moment. We get that same gift by proxy. These two don't actually have to do it for themselves because they have each other. Thank you for listening to Window Dressing's Twin Peaks mini-season, Women of the Woods. This is the last episode in the series. I will have new episodes this summer about Guns N' Roses and whatever else enters my world in the coming months. As for the next season of Window Dressing, I am in the imagining phase and will get back to you with all the details as soon as they come to me. Please like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you are listening, and follow me on Instagram for more content and updates at Window Dressing Podcast. I'm Madeline Jane Auble.